Analyst. Mr. Upadhyay, I'll take this across to you first. What do you make of this proposed bill when it comes to the Karnataka government, considering it is in line with the Mahishi report of 1984?
Well, periodically we have seen this Karnataka governments taking up these issues, but I mean, this time I think the push has been towards the jobs as well. See, I have no problem as far as the teaching of Kannada is concerned, promoting Kannada in general is concerned. I mean, if you are going to have in schools and colleges, the Kannada teaching must be made compulsory. Yes, I think that's a necessity, which Siddaramaiah government tried during its period, but it was not carried properly because so many of the ICSE schools and CBSE schools have not implemented it. And then if you want to have Kannada boards, that's fine. I think if you're going to have both Kannada and English in courts, I think that's fine. But when it comes to jobs, especially in the private sector, I think it will be a little problematic. So you cannot ask the private sector or the companies to prefer people who know only Kannada. See, their requirements are different.
Yes.
You cannot just say just people who know Kannada, you should prefer them. I don't think it will be constitutional. I don't think it will work in the court of law. It might get squashed if any such provision is made. You can do that with the government jobs. The government jobs, of course, the government has to function in Kannada, and naturally, if you give preference to people who have come through the Kannada medium, it's fine. But you cannot, dictate this to the private sector, and you can't tell the corporates that you give preference to people who know Kannada. Probably that will not work, and this is just, I think, the election gimmick. I mean, he's trying to push things that don't really work, but tell the people we have done our job.
Okay, Mr. Nambiar, I'd like you to come in here. Why is it that this government likes to actually border on extremes? Earlier, there was ample flack that it received because of the Hindi Divas celebration, and now there is a clear push towards making Kannada the official language and the Kannada Push. Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't think that is there anything wrong in making Kannada as an official language in all across, because it's at the end of the day, it's Karnataka. And Kannada is one of the oldest language which has got one of the most closest to the Sanskrit. And I belong to the very close by to the neighboring state. So, and let me tell you, Karnataka is also one of the states which has got multiple languages like many other states. Karnataka has got to Tulu, Kurgi, Konkani, many other languages are spoken in Karnataka. So, but I think I have a point here that making private enterprises also needs to be choosing people who are localized, who only speak Kannada. So then if that way, if you say that tomorrow you tell Infosys that you start coding only in Kannada, that may not really work. Yeah. That may be a little extreme, I do agree. But in the meantime, in a country which has been created states with the on the linguistic base, I think giving importance to a language and the regional pride or the language pride. The language is not just for the communication, it is also a culture. From that angle, I support this bill and this move. But going to an extreme that private companies, for an example, see, when we talk about the corporate sector, predominantly 80% of the corporates in Karnataka is limited to Bangalore. Maybe a little bit spilled over to Mysore and some of the other places. So I think making this kind of a move, saying that all the IT sector needs to go only to the Kannadiga, that might change the character and also the advantage what it is holding it today as a cosmopolitan culture, which is attracts everyone, accepts everyone, every kind of a language. That should not be going away. But in the meantime, I think regional pride, the importance of language,
but Mr. Nambiar, this bill proposes penalties for private companies if they choose not to implement what is being proposed, so that it is more effective, and that's the reasoning that's been given by the state here.
Then I think in that case, the government should also be able to provide. For an example, I have a branch office in Bangalore, and many of the people whom is from the localites, I may not be able to even hire. So the reason being, they may not carry that kind of quality or a capacity or a capability. So it's basically a corporate or a private sector always look at an individual from the point of view of his quality, as a resource, what it can bring to the table, not by his language or his religion or in something else. So I think let the private companies should be kept separate. Within the government, what they can do, making Kannada as an official language is a welcome move, but making this applicable to the corporate is going to make the advantage of what Karnataka is enjoying it today. In fact, Bangalore, for an example, is considered as a capital of South India because it has got an equal distance from all the major cities from the entire south, whether it is Hyderabad or to the Cochin or to the Coimbatore or Chennai, all of them. So I think I think that the move should not be taking the advantage of Karnataka or the Bangalore or the way the corporates and the world look at Karnataka as the IT capital. Okay. That should not be the move. But yes, it is important. The language should be kept as a strong, very strongly across. There is another fashion that a large number of new age people don't want their kids to learn Kannada, which is not right, because eventually then the character of the
Mr. Nambiar, that's a separate debate. Obviously, that's like a private choice also. But I would like to take the same question to you, Mr. Upadhyay. The fact that this government seems to be working on extremes. On the one hand, there was a push for Hindi. Now there is a push for Kannada. If we actually go back to 1984, the Mahishi report that was talking about, that proposed 100% reservation for people in central government jobs and also PSUs. However, pushing it to private sector, to private companies, don't you think this is just taking things a little too far?
See, I think the Mahishi Committee report itself has been dumped for quite some time now. It is a very idealistic kind of a report, and which none of the governments have been able to implement it. And it's 40 years now since that report was submitted.
Yeah.
See, I think it's much better for the government to work on what is more practical. If you want to promote Kannada, if you want to see that Kannada as a language is promoted, you please do it in schools and colleges. See, right now, it is not compulsory for anybody to be learning the language. I think there should be a distinction between teaching Kannada as a language and Kannada as a medium of instruction. So teaching Kannada as a language to everyone, every child who's studying in Karnataka is a must. That is what I feel, and that is what Siddaramaiah government tried, but very, very feeble attempt was made, and many of the schools have not implemented the government order, and they've gone scot-free. Why don't you insist that in every school, Kannada is taught as a language? After all, it's the language of the people of this state, and even Kannadigas. I mean, many of the Kannadiga families are distraught that their own children don't know the language properly. They cannot read. They cannot read some of the best literature that is available in Kannada. So make sure that Kannada as a language survives. Kannada as a language thrives. As a culture, it thrives. But if you try to implement it in the jobs, I think that will be problematic. Because, see, jobs cannot be given on the basis of proficiency in language. The jobs are given on the basis of merit. That includes so many other parameters. It's not just the language. And also, you feel, I mean, in a place like Bangalore, you have people from different domicile background. People who are Telugu speaking or Tamil speaking, but they also know Kannada very well. So are you going to discriminate against them? Are they Kannadigas or not? I mean, these are questions which can never be solved, in a clear-cut manner.
Right.
So that is why instead of attempting all this, Karnataka government should ensure that language thrives. Kannada is given a lot of importance in government communication. Yes, I think, government orders should be in Kannada. The government notification should be in Kannada. You ensure that all the boards carry Kannada as a language in all the states, and this is the problem is only for Bangalore city. Outside Bangalore, Kannada is the language that people speak. So just to ensure that you make that the private sector also implemented, it is not going to work. I don't think it will work.
All right, Mr. Upadhyay and Mr. Nambiar. In fact, Mr. Nambiar, your point of kids who do not even know the language, because here the definition of the word and who exactly makes for a Kannadiga is the fact that one person needs to have resided in Karnataka for not less than 15 years and should have actually studied the language till about standard 10. So that is also one thing that the draft says. So this would be a tricky situation when it comes to implementation for the government in the state.